Welcome back, OChem. Let's do this. This is round 2 of our cycloalkanes. I'm pretty excited. Today's cycloalkanes videos, we are going to focus on just one ring size, and that's cyclohexane. Let's do a little summary before we get to cyclohexane so it kind of makes sense why we're going to spend an entire video on just one ring size. So far we've already tackled our rings here. We've got our cyclopropane, butane, and pentane. And we talked about some vocab. We looked at our ring strain. And we had our 3 types of ring strain. We had that angle strain, torsional strain, and then finally steric strain. If we had anything bigger than a hydrogen, as soon as we started putting another carbon on there, we had steric strain. And then we're going to focus this video on cyclohexane, and we are going to take a look at that ring strain first. Okay, we'll keep in mind all 3 of them. Oops, let's spell them right. And then, of course, steric strain. And then after this, we're going to comment. We actually have bigger sizes after cyclohexane. We actually get beyond cyclohexane, and we're going to add another strain to that. And we're actually going to stop really with cyclohexane. We're going to see these bigger ones in our road maps, but I'm not going to ask you to draw them as much. They're just going to pop up in our road maps. And then torsional, steric, and then there's a 4th one called transannular strain that starts to pop up. So let's talk about why cyclohexane is kind of its own entity. And we are going to include our other 2 vocabs from the last video. So we had ring strain, we had symmetry, and we had isomers. We're going to hit all of those with our cyclohexane. Let's start by grabbing your model set for cyclohexane. So let's pause. This is a good place to pause, and let's go ahead and build a model of cyclohexane. We've got our 6 carbons, and then fill in with all those hydrogens. So hit pause for a second, grab your model set. All right, we're going to look at cyclohexane. And first, let's talk about that angle strain. It turns out that our cyclohexane angles for each one of these carbons, this is really awesome because it turns out that our cyclohexane has a perfect 109.5 angle. Okay, that's awesome. So we're actually going to cross off angle strain and call that 0. And that's a perfect tetrahedral carbon. It's awesome. Well, then number 2, let's look at torsional strain. Okay, torsional was all eclipse bonds. So I went ahead and turned my model set. So it looks like 2 Newman projections. Look at that. Those are my 2 Newman projections. Let's color code. Okay, in the front. If you look at those Newman projections, aren't they a beautiful staggered conformation? In fact, there are no eclipsing bonds. All right, well, hang on a second. We've got nice even spacing everywhere, 60 degrees. Well, energy-wise, isn't that a pretty awesome conformation? Well, let's go right back up here to torsional strain then. We don't have eclipsed bonds. Let's call that a 0. Okay, now hang on a second. I feel like we need to add that up here to this list. So already we're down to 0 on those. And the only thing left is steric strain. So let's put in perspective. Our rings smaller than cyclohexane all had angle and torsional strain, at least some of it, and steric. And in fact, then our cyclohexane doesn't have angle or torsional strain. We're just going to see steric strain. And then as we get bigger, we're actually back into having some strain, and then we've added a fourth strain. So if we want to just talk energy, we're going to call this kind of 0 in our energy. And then we start to get increase again as we go this way. And we actually increase as we go this way. So you can see that cyclohexane is kind of that sweet spot right in the middle. So that's the good news. Cyclohexane has actually got an awesome energy. It is found in nature quite often. It's in all your steroids. It's all over the place, that cyclohexane ring. So we need to focus on cyclohexane for this entire video. This is why we spend so much time on cyclohexane. It is quite common in nature. Because of this awesome strain, we get rid of angle and torsional strain, and we only have left steric strain. Now, of course, if you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, here it is. All right, so we still have steric strain. We are still going to worry about configurational isomers. So how would we draw those? Well, we still are going to have something like this, 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 and even this. If we have dimethyl cyclohexane, we're going to have constitutional isomers possible, configurational isomers. How are we going to show those? So as soon as we put something bigger than a hydrogen, we've got to think about that. So that's what we did in our last video. We can have a cis and a trans. Okay, same thing here. We can have a cis and a trans. Oh, that's a bad drawing, huh? And then same thing for this final one. We can have a cis and a trans. So you can practice with your symmetry on that and your configurational isomers. Okay, but here's the bad news. Good for Mother Nature, bad for OChem students. We are going to consider configurational isomers, but hold your seats, grab your model set. Can you move those bonds? Can you start to wiggle your bonds? Yes. You start to have some bond rotation again. So, aha, that's a sparkle pen. When we start to get bond rotation, that means we're in business for conformational isomers. So we still need to take time to learn how to draw our cyclohexanes because we are going to have all three kinds of isomers. We didn't really worry about conformational isomers in the other ring sizes because they were pretty fixed. Your bonds really couldn't rotate much. But now we have cyclohexane, it turns out that there's flexibility there. Our bonds can rotate. So we're going to worry about all three kinds of isomers. So that means that our drawing is going to be really important. So remember, our drawing, we're going to draw just our skeletal stick structure for our constitutional isomers. Holy crap, what do we do for conformational isomers? And then what about our configurational isomers? We have to still include those bolds and dashes. So remember what we are looking at for conformational. I better make that more clear because that's the same as configuration. Conformational has to do with bond rotation and energy. So how do we view that and how do we draw that? Let's start with that one. Okay, let's take this Newman projection. Actually isn't going to help us yet for confirmation. We need to look at our cyclohexanes on the side. So we're going to put our eyeball over here. So grab your model set and we are going to turn it. So this is a good way to picture our configurational, nice and flat with your bolds and dashes like these. But what about that energy difference? So grab your model set, let's change our perspective. We're going to use something called the chair. This is for our conformational isomers for cyclohexane. So first we're going to draw them and then we're going to talk energy. So you're going to take your model set, and I like to always start with the easy ones to see, and that is going to be your straight up and straight down bonds. And it's going to be nice if you actually put on your model set some nice colored balls. I like to start with the ones that are straight up. Let's start there. Okay, you'll notice there's going to be 3 of them. So let's put those on your model set and keep them all the same color. And then let's put your eyeball in a perspective. We're going to put your eyeball right here. You're looking at this bond. You almost want this bond to disappear behind that first bond. So let me draw it flat next to you to give you perspective. You're going to kind of look at it like this. This is where your eyeball is. We just drew this one, and this one are those red balls that are in the drawing. And if we picture right here, I'll even kind of color them pink so you can see it. The reason it's called the chair is you could almost envision lounging in this like a chair, where you've got your little head here. We kind of drew this in Zoom lecture. Your little buns there, your little knees there, and your feet here. Okay, oh, you're at the beach, you're reading a book, a little OChem book. So you're literally picturing this like a 70s lounge chair, like you're at the beach. So you've got 3 that are sticking straight up. And then remember, okay, so why is this torture? We are going to hit a perfect SP3. That's weirdo angles. That's why this is going to be a little bit challenging to draw for the first time. So we're going to start easy and draw the straight up. And then let's work our way down, and let's include the straight down. So now we've got, okay, we're picturing our chair. We had already included these 3, and they were straight up. And then now alternating, look at that. You have 3 that are straight down. Let's put those in there. So then if you're looking at that like it's a chair, here's your head, here's your buns, here's your knees, and here's your feet. So right where your buns are, you've got 2 that are down by your feet and buns. So this one is kind of head and knees. This one is kind of buns and feet. All right, now all 6 of these, straight up and straight down, are called axial bonds. Okay, why do we care? Because their energy is going to be different. So we're going to keep track of the straight up and straight down. I always start here when drawing the chair. And then let's add in the other set. So each carbon, so here's all axial. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got 6 carbons. You're going to have 6 axial. Now let's fill in the other ones. Okay, I like to do these second because they're the weird angle. All right, so go ahead and put another set of balls on there. So you've got your 6 carbons that are axial, have those axial hydrogens. That's our red. And then now let's fill in the other ones. So if we're looking at our chair, let me draw that in blue so I can color code. Let's look at our chair again. Okay. Now every single carbon has an sp3 tetrahedral. That means that your first axial, like this, you're not at a 90-degree angle. This is 109.5. So every one of these carbons then has a wacky angle. Let's color code those green. That is called equatorial. Every carbon has one. And they are at such a funny angle because of that sp3 tetrahedral. They almost look like little tripods for each one. So let's look. Here's our axial. And then on this carbon number 1, here's our equatorial. Okay. So as we work our way around to carbon number 2, here is our axial. Remember, your axial now is down. And here is your equatorial. It is kind of out. So how do you draw that? On your cyclohexane, oh, let me draw that prettier. Let me draw it a little bit bigger. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our 6 carbons. Okay, on number 1, you've got an equatorial and an axial. On number 2, you've got an axial and equatorial. On number 3, axial, equatorial. Number 4, axial, equatorial. Number 5, axial, equatorial. And number 6, axial and equatorial. All of these are a little bit tricky to draw, but remember, it's because of that perfect sp3 tetrahedral. That's why those angles are so funny. Let's color code. Okay, so up and down alternate. Those are your axials. Your equatorial are the funny angles because they're all sp3. So this is a good place to pause and just make sure you feel good about axial versus equatorial. Now you know the cliffhanger in this is that it's going to matter. They are going to be different in their energy. And what is the strain that's left for us to look at? Steric strain. That is what we're going to consider with these. All right, so I actually put together, let's draw just a little bit. Why do we care about something like steric strain? Well, let me just ask you, if I draw my cyclohexane, and then of course, you know what's coming. We'll have a 3D model set here in just a second. As we're looking at our chair, if I put a methyl group up here, axial, it is close in space to the other axials. Isn't that our definition of steric strain? So once we put something like a methyl or even bigger, that axial position has steric strain. But now let's compare to the equatorial position. That is free and clear with no steric strain. Because remember, this axial is down here. You have a little hydrogen there. So our axial has steric strain, our equatorial doesn't. So you can see where we're headed in the chair. The point of the chair is to be able to figure out, wow, do we have steric strain or not? If our other strains are 0, the one that matters is the steric strain. So we tend to draw our chairs and include axial or equatorial for anything bigger than hydrogen. That's going to help us in our energy. There will be an energy difference between axial and equatorial. Between the two of these, this would be our best, this would be our worst. Okay, so let's take a look at the downside of the chair. So we have a good side and a bad side. The good side of the chair is that I think once you get to be able to draw this, you can recognize the difference. You're going to have steric strain in any of your axials and you're not in your equatorials. That's awesome. But remember that we actually can have a bond rotation in our chair. So your first job on your chair is to simply be able to draw a chair. All right, your second job is we need to tackle this bond rotation. It is often called a chair flip because your bonds can rotate, but they're all attached to each other in a ring. It's actually a very specific rotation. It is called a chair flip. It is often drawn, and we'll draw this again, it is often drawn like this. The second reason you're picturing the fact that this is a chair or the name that this is a chair is that if you picture like one of those 70s lounge chairs, you know that you can click up to sit up and read your book, or click down. You could click your feet up or click them down. You can change that chair. Well, that's the chair flip. So you're literally going to picture, oh, I'm upside down. Okay, your head is now down here and your feet are up in the air. That is your chair flip. Okay. Oh, and of course you're reading OChem. And you're now reading OChem upside down, which is awesome. All right, so that's literally what we need to work on, is the fact that your chair can move. And this chair flip is our conformational isomer. All right, this is really hard for me to do on a flat screen. So I'm going to try my best and give you 3 or 4 different visuals to help you visualize the chair flip. All right, the chair flip is actually in our online textbook. It will be in your regular textbook. If you have any OChem 1 text, you will have the chair and the chair flip. I went ahead and used my 3D system again, and I wanted to color code, because there's good news and bad news. Okay, so once you master the chair, okay, check it out. All right, this is our chair. We have all of our axials are white and our equatorials are yellow. When we flip our chair, so let's flip. Sweet canola oil, look at that. All of your equatorials are now axial, and all of your axials are now equatorial. Oh, all right, so these are your conformational isomers. All right, write that down in your notes. You've got a chair and a chair flip because they can bond rotate. And when they flip, everything that was axial is now equatorial. And everything that's equatorial is now axial. So let's try that though on your model set. So this is one of the hardest things for me to try to do for you on a flat screen. So what I did was take my model set and have my daughter shoot a little video. So you want to pause and grab that PDF or that Word document and watch this video. There should be an embedded video on what the chair flip looks like on a model set. And I color coded. All right, so you're going to have red and white balls. And I want you to notice that they switch. Okay, so why do we give a crap about all of this? Well, check it out. Let's go back to, and this is our typical flat way of drawing our chair and our chair flip. If you're crafty, you'll take this as a template even and practice drawing these. So why do we care? Well, let's just take on carbon number 1 and let's put a methyl group on there. Why do we care? Let's start with our methyl group, axial, and then as we flip, if our methyl group was axial, where is it now? Okay, as we flip, it is now equatorial. Because this is equatorial, wait a second, we just learned, sorry about that, y'all. We just learned that axial and equatorial have different energy. This has steric strain. This one does not. So you see where I'm headed. This is just like our Newman projection. Shut the front door. That means this is going to be our worst energy. This is going to be our best. So if we are picturing a cyclohexane with a methyl on it, greater than 99% of the time, it will look like this. That energy difference is so different. I better say 95%. Let's not get so exaggerated. Legit, this has been calculated. It's greater than 95% will look like this. Will be in that equatorial conformation. So this is why we care. Our energy is different. So I want to just take a second before we practice drawing these. And we may stop this video and have cycloalkanes number 3 and just draw our chair. But let's just take a second. What if we are looking at something like this? All right, our skeletal is just getting everything attached. Our bolds and dashes would tell us that this is trans. And now our chair is going to tell us our best energy conformation. So these are the 3 ways to legitimately draw that dimethyl cyclohexane. We need to look at all of them and look at why would we even draw. All 3 methods are for all 3 isomers. All right, this is how we draw to look for constitutional. We're literally just getting everything attached. This one is perfect for configurational. I ran out of room there. And this is great for conformational. These are our 3 isomers, and these are our 3 methods to draw. So what we need to practice, number 1, is putting stuff on our chair and then flipping it. And then number 2, we need to connect these 2 drawings. We need to be able to go back and forth between our bolds and dashes and our chair. So let's stop this video. Now that we've got our vocab and why we even give a crap, watch that little chair flip video. Take a look at these and at least master your chair, just the basic chair drawing. And then video number 3, we're going to put crap on it, we're going to flip it, and we're going to connect it to our configurational isomers. Okay?